There's the question on your right-hand side, yeah.
I think that, yeah, my theory about the Irish psyche is that Ireland being the most western point of Europe besides the Atlantic Ocean, for thousands and thousands of years, nobody knew in Europe, perhaps, that there was anything beyond that. And so we were the place that was right beside the beyond. And I think somehow we internalized that in quite an anxious way. And I think that our pagan Neolithic ancestors who built Newgrange and all these kind of things were somehow struggling with reaching the beyond and trying to commune with it. And, you know, that's not light. You know, and also I think probably our very violent history is probably got a lot to do with it. Very poor, very dysfunctional. And then we sort of only got rid of the English and then sort of seemed to be colonized by the Catholic Church in a strange way. And sort of it's only sort of very recently we seem to have been getting out of all that. Now, Anglo-Irish writers, like you say, or writers from the Protestant tradition, like even Oscar Wilde, who's, you know, quite recent, his plays are beautifully light. He studied in, you know, in England and suppose was very in touch with that. A more older, more stable, very anciently, you know, together culture for a long time. Okay, they butchered loads of people all over the world, but in England it was very, very stable for quite a long time. We haven't had that stability. But even in my lifetime, in our lifetime here growing up, I mean, just what the barbarism that was happening on this island, which only has very recently kind of ceased, it doesn't really seem to give us a lot of comedy. Our comedy is very dark, like you say. So I agree with you, and those are perhaps reasons why. I can't explain it really any other way.
That's a bloody good answer, yeah.
What are you working on at the moment?
Well, I'm
a musical.
Yeah, directing The Birds at the moment. I started writing a new play, which is a period play. It's set like in the 1830s in Ireland, and I was studying, well not studying, but researching here at the library in UCD this summer. I came back to find out about that time and stuff, and very strange being here 20 years later, sort of getting off the dart with my bag on my back and sort of going, nothing in my life has changed. And so there's that, and then there's just a few other things, just like, you know, ideas for screenplays and things like that. But I always have a number of things kind of on the go. And then I have to do The Seafarer again at the Abbey for Christmas. So that'll be the next kind of directing thing. So a lot of things in Dublin at the moment. So, but it's lovely to be working here and just doing my work here. It's really easy.
Yep.
Well, on the contrary, like I thought that was just, I was really pleased with how that moment,
Yeah, no, yeah. She does too, yeah.
Well, I suppose, but at the same time, everything's going to be a departure. Everything has to change and be different. I can't keep doing the same play forever, you know, and it's like, with that one, that was the first image I had for that play. And everything in the play worked towards that final moment. So for me, it was actually nothing made sense without that moment. So although it shocked everybody, for me, it was just totally within the internal logic of the piece. But yeah, I know a lot of people did come out and go, "Whoa," you know, but I was, I was delighted. I remember the first preview, just wondering, how are people going to take this? And just the collective sound in the theatre was something that I'd never really heard before. It wasn't a gasp, it was an intake, it was a like this, and I just thought, yes, And so no, I was really pleased with that, you know. Yeah.
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 But
Sorry.
like the second part of that, did you ever feel when you saw the way something worked or didn't work in front of an audience that you might have wanted to change it? I mean, like for instance, bands make albums and they had like 2 weeks to make them and they had 50 quid, and then with their 9th album they have £1 billion and all the rest. And if they could go back and do things a different way, which I'm glad they don't change them, but if they did, they would do them completely differently. They get embarrassed if I'm interviewing them on the radio and I play something from the early days and I say, oh please don't play that, that's rubbish. It's not rubbish, that's what turned me on to you in the first place. But do you ever look back and say something, especially with the reaction of an audience, and say, yeah, maybe I could have done that differently? No, it's Conor McPherson.
I sort of, yeah, I tend to just try and move on, really. Neil Young, when he's recording his albums, he says they're just like a snapshot of what he was doing at that time. That's kind of the way I see it too. I go, well, that's as good as I could do then. That's it. That's the Conor that was in 1990, whatever. That's who he was. And I'm not him now, but that's what that is. But I don't go really, and I don't revisit my plays really.
Right,
I sort of,
okay,
I'm always going into the future. So no, I don't. Perhaps I should.